Wager. Written by I'm Alright. Read by Arashi. Leo steps down from the elevated wooden platform onto the grass surrounding Castle Shirasagi, following Takumi towards a small break in the trees. Takumi's carrying 2 fishing poles and a small box. His hair is tied up as usual, exposing the back of his tanned neck, and while he's dressed lighter than he was during the war, he's still got more fabric than strictly necessary tied around his waist. The thought makes Leo sweaty. In fact, everything about this makes Leo sweaty. The sun, the heat. As they step between the trees on the narrow, warm path, he adds the humidity to the list. Bugs he can't see scream. That can't be making anything better. Leo isn't even wearing his armor. He's wearing the lightest clothes he owns, linen head to toe, and he's still soaked through completely with slimy, stinky sweat. How far did you say this was? Leo gasps after what feels like forever. Takumi pauses and turns back to him. We're almost there. You said that 15 minutes ago. Takumi frowns. He holds out a hand to Leo, and Leo takes it gratefully. Do you never walk? This is a swamp, Leo protests. His hand is wet in Takumi's, and he can't find it in himself to care. We're swimming. Takumi laughs and gently knocks Leo's shoulder with his own, all the while still holding Leo's slimy hand. It's pretty cool, you know. You'll be fine. Leo considers the sun beating down through the trees and scowls. I beg to differ. In a few more steps, though, Leo sees a sliver of shining water between the trees. Takumi winks at him and drops his hand to run ahead. Leo doesn't try to keep up. Takumi turns around a final bend and, when Leo follows, the trees open. The lake stretches before him, a rich brown near the shore deepening into shades of blue as it stretches towards the tiny emerald trees across the water. The path has led them directly to the edge, with only a leaf-covered forest floor between him and the water. All around them, the forest trees crowd along the edge, their roots reaching into the water, taking life and giving it all at once. Minnows had gathered in the shallow waters. Some dart between the shadows of the tree roots, and some swim around in the sun. Their tiny black bodies seem to absorb any light that approaches them, reminding Leo of Brunhild's magic. Leo's thoughts are interrupted by a splash. There we go, Takumi says, pulling a small bucket Leo didn't realize he had out of the water. Some of the minnows swim around inside it. Takumi carefully spills out some of the excess water, holding his fingers over the stream to filter out any minnows, and sets it on the dry ground. Leo stares. You look like you're going to be sick, Takumi says. Leo looks at his feet. I'm not. Have you fished before? Not like this. Yes. Takumi shuffles around, out of his line of vision. You don't seem sure about that. I've gone fishing, Leo says. He has, it's true, though his version of fishing involves a lot more ice. But it was in Nor. It was different. Takumi pushes his way into Leo's line of sight, his eyes shining with curiosity. How is fishing different? It's fishing. If Leo's face could get warmer, he's certain it would with Takumi's proximity. He takes a step back and sputters. Well, for one, it never gets this warm, he huffs. We always went out to the lake when it was frozen and pierced a hole through the ice. Takumi breaks out into a wide grin. No way, he says, his voice shaking with laughter. You actually do that? I thought it was a joke. How else do you fish through ice? Takumi doubles over laughing, clutching his stomach. Leo crosses his arm and waits. How do you catch bait? Takumi forces out. Not like this. Worms. Worms? Or meat, Leo continues, or fake bait attached to hooks. And if it's through the ice, Takumi takes great effort to get his words out without laughing. How do you know when something bites? Leo frowns. A bobber. You can't just... A chuckle escapes Takumi. You can't just look? Can you see through ice as thick as your arm is long? Leo snaps, waving his own arm around as evidence. Takumi's laughter stops cold and his jaw drops. You're lying. Leo smirks. He's finally found the high ground. Visit Nor in the winter and I'll show you. I think I'd rather die than visit the tundra in the winter, Takumi says. It's not the tundra. Well, apparently there's ice as thick as you are tall. There probably is, Leo says. But that's not what I said. Takumi's serious face cracks and he snickers. Leo's been had. He drops the subject and instead sits to watch Takumi bait the hook. Now that they're no longer active, he can admit the weather's all right. As the day goes on, he knows the sun will arc over the lake and eventually shine directly on them, leaving him terribly burned if they stay out too long. But for now, they're in the shade of the trees, and he can insist they leave once it gets that late. How long are we going to be here? Leo asks. Takumi shrugs. Dunno, long enough that our siblings don't get all pissy when we go back. The thought of catching Camilla's wrath stops Leo's wistful thinking. He groans. We're not even walking anymore, Takumi says. Why are you still so crabby? Leo waves his hand towards the lake. Life is good here, in the quiet shade and in good company. He simply feels like being contrary. Takumi reads him easily and rolls his eyes, handing him a baited fishing rod. Takumi tosses his baited hook a few strides offshore into slightly deeper waters, and Leo follows suit. After scattering when Takumi disturbed them, the minnows slowly return to their place in the shallow waters and resume their lives as if they were never interrupted. One in particular can't seem to make up its mind. Does it want to play in the shadow or rest in the sun? Is it like Leo, desiring the darkness where it can thrive, or is it like Takumi, craving the relaxation the light brings? Are you paying attention? Takumi asks, grinning. Leo's attention snaps to him. He gives an exaggerated eye roll. Of course I am. Don't be ridiculous. You're not even looking at your hook, Takumi points out. You never said anything about paying attention to my hook. Don't be so pedantic, Takumi chides in good nature. Leo smirks. I was just watching the minnows, Leo says. Do you wonder if they know we're using the carcasses of their brethren as bait? Takumi's nose scrunches at the thought. A wrinkle forms between his brows. Don't bring that up. I don't want to know if they're sentient. I'm just saying, Leo continues, reaching a hand up to smooth out the skin between Takumi's brows. Any of them could be dead, and they wouldn't even know. Takumi snorts. What's wrong with you? As if you have no interest in the macabre, Leo teases. You've read just as many books on war as I have. More, Takumi corrects. If you care to tally them up, I'm willing to make a wager. Leo bluffs, as if he has any idea how many books he's read. Fine, Takumi says. How about this? If I've read more books than you need to go fishing with me again, and you don't get to complain the entire time. I haven't complained this entire time, Leo says. No complaints at all, Takumi corrects himself. None. Don't want to hear anything about it. Leo pretends to mull this over. Of course, he'll agree, if only because he would drop all complaints if it genuinely bothered Takumi. Fine, he says after a stretch. If I win, you need to come to Nor in the winter, and you'll fish my way. Takumi's smug smile turns wary. Unless you're too cowardly, Leo goads him. As if, Takumi says. I know I'll win. We'll see about that.